Welcome back, everyone. If you're focused on optimizing your mind, understanding human behavior, and figuring out how to master your own psychological pitfalls, well, you're in exactly the right place. Okay, let's dive into this. Today, we're exploring an explainer of something truly remarkable. We're looking at a text from the ancient compilation known as Pirkei Avot, or Ethics of the Fathers. In it, a sage named Rabban Yohanan ben Zakkai describes his 5 greatest students. But as you'll see, he wasn't just listing dry historical figures. He was literally coding the fundamental archetypes of human excellence.
Now you might be wondering, how in the world could an ancient religious and ethical text perfectly map onto modern cognitive science? It sounds almost impossible, right? But we're talking about concepts like neuroplasticity, social learning theory, and fluid intelligence, ideas that scientists literally only formally named in the 20th century. Yet this 2,000-year-old framework doesn't just identify these psychological profiles perfectly, it actually provides the exact remedies for the mental traps that inevitably come with them.
So, let's start with part 1, the Ancient Excellence Code.
To really understand this, we need to meet these 5 students. And don't picture them as dusty historical footnotes in robes. No, these are distinct, universally recognizable psychological profiles. You are absolutely going to recognize your friends, your colleagues, and honestly, probably yourself in these 5 paths. But here's the brilliant catch. Each archetype represents an immense power, for sure, but they also carry an inherent dangerous shadow side. Unchecked, the very trait that makes you exceptional can completely derail your life. The ancients deeply understood that extreme talent requires active, modern self-regulation. So let's break down every single one of these profiles, uncover their hidden dangers, and most importantly, look at the remedies. Moving right along to part 2, the absolute and the environmental. Let's look at our first 2 profiles. On one side, we have the student of absolute unyielding retention, Rabbi Eliezer. And on the other, the ultimate environmental sponge, Rabbi Joshua. So looking at the first one, the text literally describes Rabbi Eliezer as a cemented cistern that loses not a drop. Basically, he's the master of flawless memory and absolute retention. In modern scientific terms, this perfectly illustrates Hebbian learning and neuroplasticity. The golden rule in neuroscience is that neurons that fire together wire together. Through relentless, flawless repetition, Eliezer actually physically changed the structure of his brain to hold on to information like a sealed concrete vault. It's the ultimate, unwavering drive for excellence. But what happens when you're a cemented vault that expects absolutely 0 mistakes? Well, that's when the shadow side emerges. That incredible psychological drive for excellence twists into maladaptive perfectionism. You know the type. You become that person who ruthlessly corrects everyone's grammar in a group chat and secretly tortures yourself over a single typo. When you demand absolute perfection, every tiny drop of water lost feels like a totally catastrophic failure. And this leads straight to toxic self-flagellation and just a harsh, unforgiving judgment of anyone else who can't meet your rigid standards. The ancient remedy for this? It's cultivating what they called a good eye, actively training yourself to see the positive. The text also advises viewing life as a dynamic daily fixing process. It's about breaking that cycle of demanding absolute perfection right out of the gate. Next up, we've got Rabbi Joshua. The ancient text calls him the one where happy is she who bore him. And why is that? Because his mother intentionally brought his crib right into the study hall when he was just a baby, specifically so his ears would absorb the sounds of learning. This is a perfect illustration of Albert Bandura's social learning theory and our modern understanding of early neuroplasticity. He's the environmental man, someone who just effortlessly absorbs the social frequency and values of his surroundings through pure observation and immersion. So I have to ask, are you the sponge in your friend group? Because the danger of being highly attuned to your environment is actually losing your own inner truth. Healthy social absorption can rapidly deteriorate into people-pleasing, toxic conformity, and a total loss of self when you're exposed to a negative environment. If you absorb whatever is around you, a toxic room will literally poison you. The ancient remedy here? Actively and intentionally choosing a good friend and fleeing from societal jealousy. You see, you can't really change your porous nature, so you absolutely must fiercely curate your environment. All right, part 3, the altruist and the risk manager. Moving from how we learn to how we actually act, we meet the ultimate giver, contrasted sharply with the ultimate cautious planner. Rabbi Jose is called the pious one. Now, he operates completely beyond the letter of the law. He gives up his own rights for others and chooses mercy over justice every single time.
Modern positive psychology links this high agreeableness trait to pro-social behavior and the helper's high. You know, that incredible rush of deep meaning and biological reward we get from extreme altruism and self-sacrifice. It sounds beautiful, right? But here's the shocking shadow side. Boundless mercy without rules is actually destructive. Psychologists like Diana Baumrind, in her work on parenting styles, show that permissive parenting, which is born out of endless mercy and a total lack of boundaries, actually creates unregulated, selfish children. In therapy or in leadership, boundless giving creates a huge savior complex. It completely burns the giver out while actually disabling the receiver. So the ancient remedy prescribed for the extreme altruist is pretty fascinating. It's maintaining strict boundaries, like a good neighbor. You must respect your neighbor's property line, meaning true kindness sometimes requires enforcing a rigid structural boundary. Then we have our fourth student, Rabbi Simeon, the one who fears sin. In psychological terms, this is peak conscientiousness from the big five personality traits. This guy is the ultimate risk manager. He's governed by incredibly high self-awareness, actively creating a massive margin of safety around his actions to ensure absolute reliability and to prevent any sort of moral or behavioral collapse. Seriously, he's the exact person you want flying your airplane or doing your taxes. But wait until you see the terrifying psychological descent of the ultimate risk manager. Step 1 is high-risk awareness. Okay, that's good. But step 2, the fear of making a mistake leads straight into paralysis by analysis. And then step 3, this devolves into scrupulosity or moral OCD. You essentially become a robotic shell, constantly agonizing over every tiny action, totally terrified of doing something wrong. The inner tension just becomes unbearable. The ancient cure for this? Deep self-compassion. The text actually says, do not be wicked in your own eyes. It's all about learning to channel that anxiety into strategic foresight, focusing on long-term planning rather than obsessing over present-moment perfection. Which brings us to part 4, genius, creativity, and their dangers. Now, up until now, we've had retainers, absorbers, givers, and planners. But this fifth student represents the absolute peak of excellence. Rabbi Eleazar is called the ever-flowing spring. This is the real pinnacle of cognitive psychology. We're not just talking about holding data anymore. This is fluid intelligence. It's the incredible capacity for divergent thinking and entering deep states of creative flow. Think about it. A cemented cistern only holds what you pour into it. But an ever-flowing spring, it generates completely new water, creating genius out of thin air. But as we know, unbound water creates floods. The shadow of unbound genius often looks like extreme ADHD traits, a total lack of focus, scattering your energy everywhere, and completely neglecting the boring foundational work. Plus, genius often breeds intellectual arrogance. You start to feel like you just don't need anyone else. In fact, historically, this very student actually moved away from his peers to a quote-unquote comfortable place and ended up losing all of his learning. His genius literally dried up in isolation. So what's the required remedy? It's the iron discipline of grit, being truly diligent to learn, combined with deep humility and a good heart acting as a moral compass to keep you grounded and connected to humanity. And finally, part 5, the living reality test. The absolutely crucial takeaway here is that none of these traits exist in isolation. This is a unified theory of human behavior. Every strength you possess has a shadow, and every shadow has a highly practical, actionable remedy. Whether you're the perfectionist, the social sponge, the boundaryless altruist, the anxious planner, or the scattered genius, there is a specific, ancient toolkit for your mind. But here's the thing. The ancient sage didn't just teach this stuff in a vacuum. His ultimate instruction to these 5 brilliant minds was incredibly simple. Go out and see. True excellence and true psychological balance cannot exist in a theoretical bubble. Knowing your personality type just isn't enough. These traits have to be tested, challenged, and balanced in the messy, unpredictable friction of living reality. You have to actually go out into the world to see how your traits impact the people around you. So I want to leave you with this. Look at your own life. Which of these 5 paths really resonates with you? Are you struggling with the harshness of your own perfectionism, maybe the burnout of boundless giving, or the paralysis of extreme caution? Identify your archetype, recognize your shadow, and apply the remedy. Go out and see how you can master your own code of excellence. Thanks for exploring this explainer with me today. Keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.